Content, information, and opinions expressed during the related show are those of the show personalities and guest alone, and not those of Vic Canellis Media Group, its parent, affiliates, or stations. VCMG Live is not responsible for any content, information, or opinions expressed. User bears full responsibility for their reliance on such content, information, or opinions.
Welcome to Meet the Experts with Mike Vilardi. Join us each week as we bring you expert opinions on different subjects ranging from medical to political and community to economy. We answer all of your questions live. Have a question? Call into the show at 888-994-4995, Studio A. And now to Mike.
Welcome to today's show. Today's show is uniquely unique because our expert today is Trent Steele. Trent, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Mike. I appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. And we're going to be talking about human trafficking. He's an expert by rescuing girls who are trafficked into different countries and abused here in the United States. And Trent, I'm going to let you tell the audience what you do and how you do it.
All right. I run a nonprofit, a IRS-recognized 501c3 called Anti-Predator Project. And we're a fully, aside from being a 501c3 charity, we're a fully licensed private investigation firm. And we've got offices here in Miami. We've got offices in Arizona and Texas as well. And we specialize in all things human trafficking. We specialize in child exploitation, forceful abductions, kidnappings, anything and everything that involves human trafficking. And we cover the entire United States. And we also go into foreign countries as long as it involves a United States citizen.
I mean, that's amazing. That's really something. We're going to ask people to call into our 800 number. All right, you can see it on the screen right there, 888-994-4995. Call in. We want to take your calls today because, Trent, I understand you just were in Mexico, right?
Correct. We just brought a girl back that's been missing for 10 years from right here in Florida. We got her back from Mexico City, me and my team. I get to be the guy that gets to sit here and talk about it, but I can't say enough about the guys that surround me. Without my team of volunteers that never ask for a penny, they never ask, do we have to do it this way? Do we have to do something that's dangerous? They just say, where and when can we show up? So without them, none of this happens. But yeah, me and my team, we just got back from Mexico, got a girl back, along with her 2 children as well. So it was a very successful trip. We don't always have those, especially when we go to Mexico, but we did this time.
Now, who comes to you? Is it mostly parents who say, my daughter's been kidnapped? Who comes to you, and who asks you to go and get involved rescuing these girls?
So it depends. We get a lot of our stuff here the last several years from law enforcement, a lot of referrals from law enforcement. We've been doing this about 11 years now, so we've built up a really good reputation with law enforcement. So we do get requests from them a lot these days to help. Okay. And then we get a lot of requests from our website, from our social media. It just all depends. We only have 2 rules, though. And in order for us to get involved in a case, law enforcement either has to ask and invite us in, or if it's a minor, we have to be invited in by the legal guardians of that minor. We don't. Okay. There's a lot of organizations that will go out there and fish for cases and see a missing poster online and call the parents. We don't do that. Our cases are all referral-based.
Okay. Now, are you seeing a surge in human trafficking because of the border crisis?
The border crisis has definitely played a big role in it. I would also say that COVID has also played a huge role. We trapped our kids behind a computer screen, and we just kind of let them go. And what I tell parents all the time is, you wouldn't take your kids down to a room full of strangers and drop them off, right, and leave them. And when we leave our kids in front of the computer, when we leave them behind a smart device, a computer, cell phone, laptop, without any restrictions, we're essentially dropping them off in a room full of strangers without supervision. And during COVID, we've seen a huge uptick, especially of young girls leaving their homes to go meet men, usually that they've met online. That's been probably the biggest and most disturbing uptick that we've seen in the last several years.
So would you say that's the primary way that women get trapped into human trafficking?
So it depends. Everybody, when they hear human trafficking, the first thing that comes to people's mind is the movie Taken, right? They think this right. Hollywood, people get grabbed and they get thrown in a room. The reality is that's actually, does it happen? Absolutely it happens. Does it happen often? Rarely. Right. Most of the ways that women, girls especially, young girls end up getting trafficked. These traffickers are smart. If they would put their brains to use doing good stuff, they could probably solve a lot of problems, but they don't. Instead, they use it to do things like find weaknesses in people. And what they do is they exploit those weaknesses. So when I was working in the foster care system, for example, we had a lot of girls that fell victim to that because they come from broken homes. Right. And these predators would step in and they would meet a need, whether it was love, whether it was money, whether it was physical things, and they would fill that gap. And before you know it, now they're telling the girl, oh, well, I love you more than your parents do. I'm the only one that's ever cared about you. And so they get them brainwashed, so to speak. And that's what we're seeing a lot more of. And it's happening not only, with the foster kids, but that's what we're seeing online is these guys are finding these lonely girls online that aren't happy at home for whatever reason, and they're filling that gap. And that's what's happening.
Well, that's great information. We got our first phone call coming in. Let's go to the phone.
Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
We hear you well.
Hi. Oh, good. I hear you.
So what's your question?
So we're
for
talking
Trent?
about
Human trafficking, and we got Trent Steele here live in the studio audience. What is your question for Mr. Steele?
Oh, my question. Oh boy, I didn't know I was supposed to prepare a question. Well, I mean, what can be done? First of all, yeah, there's got to be a way that we can stop all this insanity from happening. But also, even more importantly, is then once people have been traumatized, they're going to have most likely complex post-traumatic stress disorder, if not definitely PTSD. And that's what, is so sad, that then they have to be like, have, trauma healing. They need major trauma healing from that.
So Tara,
and
so
I don't
what's
see
your question?
too many people. Well, why isn't somebody setting up a system for this, for these trauma victims? They're trauma victims.
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to funding, right? There's simply, when you break it down, there's simply not enough money being put towards human trafficking in general, whether it's service, whether it's law enforcement assistance. There's just not enough money being put there. Now, you bring up an interesting point, and to your point, we actually saw a need for this several years ago when we were recovering kids, we were recovering girls, and all of a sudden we get them back home, and we don't have any place to go with them. We don't have housing, we don't have medical care, we don't have mental health care. So we actually started our own victim services portion, and we've got victims advocates, and we help girls and children that we recover get linked with mental health, medical, housing if they need it, all over the country. But you make a fantastic point. There's just not enough in the way of resources and dollars being allocated to that issue.
Tara, thank you for your call.
Okay, you're welcome. Bye.
Next caller. Do we have another caller on the line or no? All right. So let's go back to with the trauma issue that she just brought up. How do people get over this?
Well, the first thing that we tell parents when we're dealing with this and family members is the person that comes home is not going to be the same person that left, because there is a lot of psychological damage, trauma that happens here. And the only way you get through it is by having a good support system when they come home, making sure that they've got family that believe in them, that trust them, and if they don't have family, that they're surrounded by people that can help them get back on their feet, help them do things like find a job,
right,
and get back into society and get meaning. Because a lot of times they come back, they're embarrassed about what's happened, and they feel like their life doesn't have any meaning. And we found that trying to help find jobs and get them back involved with the community helps find a lot of meaning for them, and helps find a lot of way for them to get back in life, which is why we don't refer to them as victims, right? Because the last thing that we want them to start believing is that they're victims.
Right.
That's why we refer to them as survivors, because they are. They survived a very traumatic thing, and they're on their way back up. So a lot of that is changing the verbiage that we use when we start talking about human trafficking and those involved.
And when you do catch these predators, what's usually the result? Do they end up doing jail time? Are they able to skate? What happens?
So that depends on the circumstances, right? So, for instance, this latest case that we had in Mexico, our bad guy's still in Mexico. As long as he stays there, he's probably going to be fine.
Right.
Then we've actually got another case, an investigation that we worked. It was last year now. That case is actually going to trial in Broward County coming up. We'll see what happens with that. Every case is very, very unique.
Right.
So, sometimes people go to jail, sometimes they don't. Sometimes people want to press charges, sometimes they don't. So every case is a little bit different.
Now, do you find there's organizations that are behind this? For-profit organizations using these girls as a tool for prostitution, like organized crime organizations or cult-type organizations, or
100%. When you're talking about human trafficking, and I haven't seen the numbers within the last couple of years, but I know that a couple of years ago, human trafficking was right behind illegal drug trafficking as the second most profitable crime in the world. I'm sure by now it's overtaken illegal drug trafficking as the most profitable crime in the world. Depending on the numbers and the figures that you see, you're talking about anywhere from $100 to $300 billion a year business. So the short answer to your question is, are there legitimate businesses? Are there businesses that are fronts? Is there organized crime that are involved in this? Absolutely. Why? Because there's a lot of money to be made. And the simple answer, and I know we've heard it all, you can bring a kilo of cocaine across the border, you sell it one time, you got to go back and get another kilo. You can bring a girl across the border, you can sell her 50 times in one night and turn around and do it again the next night. So there's more money, and it's much more profitable. And organized crime is starting to see that now.
what's the average lifespan of somebody that's been trafficked?
That's a good question, and it depends on what type of situation that they're caught in. If you're talking about some of the darker, more sinister stuff that goes on south of the border, not long, because they cease to be useful after a certain age. Here in the States, there are some girls that live in this lifestyle for 10, 15, 20 years, and it's interesting because everybody always says, the one answer, right, is why don't they just leave? Right. Nobody's got them tied up. Nobody's, why don't they just leave? Why don't they walk out? And it's not that simple. It's really not that simple. A lot of times they've got a drug problem. A lot of times their families have been threatened. Maybe it's a combination of the two. It's not just as simple as being able to walk away. And also, you have to remember, these are girls and individuals that don't have much of a support system. So a lot of times they want to leave. Where are they going to leave to? They don't have anybody to help them. So that's why, one of the reasons why it's so important that when we can get somebody out of the life, we can help them, that we get a good support system around them.
No, that's very important. And you've been doing this now 11 years?
11 years, yep.
Wow. And has your team grown? You get a lot of support from law enforcement and from people who have the ability to make arrests and make a difference?
Absolutely. We've built some amazing partnerships over the years. Obviously, with the work we've done and who we've worked with, we've built some fantastic relationships with law enforcement. We work with another fantastic nonprofit that's helped us build these relationships, the International Association of Human Trafficking Investigators. We partner with them to do trainings with law enforcement all around the country. We're also partnering with them to build a cyber center that we want to make available to law enforcement all over the country. One of the things that we've seen over the years that we've been working these cases, especially since the uptick of kids meeting people online in 2019, is that unless you're one of the big agencies, right, unless you're the FBI, Homeland Security, or one of the big local agencies, NYPD, LAPD, your cyber resources a lot of times are very limited. And so when we would get calls from some smaller police departments and they would say, listen, we need help with this because we don't have the resources, we would have to bring one of our computer experts in, one of our analysts in. And so we've seen a need for that. And we've been partnering up with the International Association of Human Trafficking Investigators to bring their resources and our resources together, hopefully to get this center off the ground in the next 18 months. And like I said, it'll be available to law enforcement all over the country for absolutely free.
Now, do you have good interaction with the FBI? Have they been helpful?
Yes, we've worked with the FBI on a few different occasions. It depends on the case. We've worked across the gamut. here locally with several local law enforcement agencies. We've got good relationships in Texas and Arizona as well. We've got decent relationships south of the border with Mexican law enforcement as well. So we've been very fortunate, and a lot of that is due to some of the great volunteers that I've brought on board that come from various agencies in D.C. that bring their Rolodex of contacts,
Right.
and it's been a huge help.
Well, we're going to go to a commercial break, and when we come back, hopefully we're going to have more calls coming in. So commercial break now, and when we get back, more calls. Thank you.
Text alert! Text alert!
I was receiving letter after letter from the IRS.
I got Mike Vilardi on the phone and I said, Mike, I got a problem.
He took the pressure off my shoulders.
He just made me feel like I had Superman on my side.
Trust me, he's the man to go to.
IRS problems? I'm Mike Vilardi, enrolled agent. I can help. My company, Winning Tax Solutions, has always gotten our clients the best possible results. Visit us at winningtaxsolutions.com or call us today.
This message was brought to you by Warburg Equities and the Cricken Law Trust.
Hi, I'm Adam, an associate with the Cricken Law Trust. We're here to help you process money owed to you through the CARES Act. If your business employed 10 or more people and maintained payroll taxes through the 2021 shutdown, the Cricken Law Trust can help you get your money back. This money is yours, but if you don't apply now, you might lose this opportunity and it'll be gone forever. Contact us now. Go to www.my123erc.com. Now that's www.my123erc.com.
You've been watching Meet the Experts with Mike Vilardi. If you have any questions, call in at 888-994-4995, Studio A. And now, back to the show.
Welcome back, and now we're going to go to our phones, and we have another caller. Go ahead. All right, they dropped. All right. Well, we'll be okay. We'll be back when they get back on the line. We got another call coming in, and for now, let's talk more about what you've done and what you're able to do for these girls.
Sounds good. You know, I'd like to talk a little bit more about this cyber center that we're working on. It's so the plan for this cyber center is to have a location here on the East Coast, and put one out on the West Coast. We've already got some great technology partners involved. I can't bring up their names yet because nothing's set in stone. But we've got some fantastic technology partners involved, and it's going to be, I think, a game changer for what local law enforcement and smaller agencies that don't have the budget to do this stuff are going to be able to do.
Well, that'll be great. I mean, because it's such a big problem for it to be either number one or number two in bringing in illegal profits. That tells me that law enforcement needs to pay particular attention to this, and I'm really surprised that they're not doing more criminal tax investigations on the people that are making all the money.
Well, like any crime, right? Follow the money, and you're going to see where you need to go. I think in general, the problem with human trafficking and law enforcement right now, let me tell you something. I've worked around the country. I've worked around the world. I've met some fantastic men and women that are doing this for the right reasons in law enforcement. They're great detectives. They're great investigators. The problem is they're not being given the resources to do their job properly. Whether it's local departments, whether it's from federal funding, state funding, we're not allocating the proper funds for this. You know, the federal government just hired, 87,000 new IRS agents.
Right.
But we don't have a hold on the human trafficking problem in this country, or control over what's going on the border. And so I think right now the biggest issue is just allocation of funds. And until the politicians, whether it's local, state, or federal, can get a better grasp on the allocation of funds and where the money needs to go, our men and women in law enforcement are going to be fighting an uphill battle, which is one of the reasons why we're trying to give them as much support as we can.
No, I agree with you. I mean, when I worked for the government as a federal agent, I was on the drug task force, but there was no human trafficking task force.
Yep, absolutely.
And so,
and I know the task force here in South Florida has been shrunk significantly over the years due to funding, and it's not due to people leaving. It's just due to they just don't have the money, and the money's not being put there to let these people fight this battle. And it's it's sad that our politicians in D.C. and Tallahassee and governments all around the country aren't seeing the need to put funds towards this issue.
Well, you're right. I mean, and they do have the ability to seize money. I mean, because it is certainly an illegal act.
Absolutely.
And because it's illegal, they have, federal authority to seize money. But that hasn't been done. And what do you think the reason for that is?
Your guess is as good as mine. I think right now, we're putting the money towards other things. We're sending tremendous amounts of money overseas right now to the Ukraine. We're sending tremendous amounts of money other places, and we're not keeping it here to help us do what we need to do. And I really feel bad for our men and women in law enforcement because they take a beating in the media, and we get calls all the time from parents saying, listen, I'm not happy with what law enforcement's doing here. They're not taking this case seriously. They're not doing this. They're not doing that. And then come to find out, we'll call up an agency. I got a call from a mom one time, just absolutely bent out of shape because she didn't feel like the local law enforcement agency was taking her case seriously. So I call up the detective, and the way we approach it is always this. I'm not here to step on your toes.
Right.
I'm not here to make you look bad.
Right.
What can I do to help you? I've got a lot of resources that we've been blessed to be given. Let me use these resources to help you out. And so he's like, if you come on down to the station, you and I can talk. So this was a large police department, and come to find out, after talking with this guy, he's the only one that does all of missing persons in this particular police department. And you're talking about a department of probably 500 sworn. And I worked with him for a whole day, and I'm not kidding. The one day that I worked with him, his phone rang no less than about 7 times with new cases. And so when you're hamstringing officers and detectives with that type of workload, it's impossible to think that they can actually do their job. So we got to get some more resources to them, get some more funds allocated to them, get them what they need to do their job.
I think you're absolutely right. That's absolutely necessary. The more feet on the ground you have, the better results you're going to get, especially when you're talking about missing persons. You can't have one guy investigating.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
It's scary to think that that's where the money is being allocated, that's how little a police department thinks about that problem. And it's really not even how little they think about it. It's just how little money they've got to put towards it. And the question becomes, why aren't our governments, state, local, federal, allocating more money for this stuff? That's the million-dollar question that nobody can answer.
That's true. Tell us about how people could get in touch with you if they wanted to donate money to your organization, because we certainly would like to see you funded, because what you do is tremendous work.
No, I appreciate it. So everything that we do is completely free. It's completely free to law enforcement. It's all the training that we help with. All of that's completely free. This cyber center is going to be completely free. Every case that we work, completely free. The girl that we brought back from Mexico, the girl's never going to get an invoice from us for that price. So everything is absolutely free. If people would like to donate to us, you can go to our website, antipredatorproject.org. There's a donate tab there. Just click on it. You can donate it. You can become a weekly, monthly donor there. You can also write us a check, send it in the mail. We've got a mailing address. You can find us on all the social media. There's links there. There's also a text number on our social media. You can text to donate. If you need to get a hold of us for a case, you can also go to our website, antipredatorproject.org, fill out a form. Somebody from our team will be in touch. We also have a 24-hour number. It gets answered all the time. I know, because it's a cell phone that sits with me all the time.
Okay.
So it gets answered 24/7. That number is 305-796-4859. That cell phone is with me all the time. If you've got an emergency, your child goes missing, you've got a loved one involved in a human trafficking situation, give that number a call. We're more than happy to help. And basically everything, either the website or that phone number, the 2 best ways to get a hold of us.
Give that phone number one more time real slow.
That's our 24-hour hotline, and the number is 305-796-4859.
Perfect. So if you need help, call Trent. He's there. That's what he's there. He's there to help you. So if you have a child that's involved in human trafficking or has been abducted, or you want somebody rescued, he's the man. They have the organization. They have the resources to help get your daughter out of a terrible, terrible situation, because that's what it is. It's a terrible situation.
It's a horrible situation.
Now, is there any particular cities where you find that it's more prevalent? Like, are they traveling in New York City? Or they end up in Las Vegas? Or how does that work as far as where it's taking place as far as locations?
You know, I wish I could say that there's one particular spot where it's worse than others, but there's not. It's happening all over America, big cities, small towns. And what we've got to eliminate is the "it doesn't happen here" mentality.
Right.
Because that doesn't do anything but empower the bad guys, right? So we've got to get rid of the "it doesn't happen here" mentality, and it doesn't matter what city you live in, what small town you live in. You know, I tell everybody, especially like in larger cities like Miami, some of the other places that we work, Phoenix, Dallas, Houston, people, if you're walking in downtown, you probably walk past at least one human trafficking victim a day and don't even know it. Wow. They're hidden in plain sight. And so it's about getting out there, learning what human trafficking looks like, learning what's going on in your community, and then getting out there and spreading the word and helping your neighbors and your friends and your community members know what to look for.
Give us 5 tips that a teenage girl can use to not become a victim.
Well, I think it all starts with where you go online. Everything centers on what we're doing online in today's world. Okay. So there's certain places to avoid, right? We all know that there are places like Kick where predators are known to hang out. It's been known a long time. Right. I mean, so we need to avoid certain websites. The other thing, too, is learn how people are talking to you. Mm-hmm. If you've got somebody that's asking you for pictures, or somebody that's offering to send you stuff, very rarely in this life do gifts come without strings attached. Right. And, you know, I tell parents all the time, in today's world, your child can be trafficked around the world and never even leave the comfort of your living room. Because next thing you know, here's what happens. They meet somebody online, they take a picture, that sicko shares that picture with somebody else, they share it with somebody else. Before you know it, that picture's been in 19 different countries. Your child's never left the house. So avoid things. Don't take pictures and send them out.
Right.
Don't accept gifts from people online. Stay out of places online that you know are bad. Wow. And trust your instincts. I tell people all the time, not just kids, not just women, men, everybody. If something doesn't feel right, 9 times out of 10, it's not right. So if you're talking to somebody online and it feels bad, or it feels inappropriate, or it feels like something you shouldn't be doing, probably shouldn't be doing it.
Right.
So that's probably the best advice I can give.
Well, thank you for watching today's show. Trent, you're the expert when it comes to human trafficking. And
thank you. I appreciate it, Mike. Absolutely.
Thank you for watching Meet the Experts. I'm Mike Vilardi. Till next time.
Thank you for tuning in to Meet the Experts with Mike Vilardi. For more information, contact Mike at 888-994-4995, Studio A. Join us next time for another